Have you ever tried to protect someone you love by keeping a secret from them, only to realize later that when the dust finally settled, that you were actually just protecting yourself?
Oh, that is such a heavy question right out of the gate.
Right. I mean, think about your own life for a second. You hold back a piece of your past, maybe a messy truth or a painful experience,
Yeah,
and you tell yourself, you say, they have enough on their plate, I don't want to burden them, it feels noble in the moment, it feels like this grand act of love.
can sacrifice.
Exactly,
Yeah.
sacrifice. But what happens when they inevitably find out? Does it feel like protection to them, or does it feel like a betrayal? Like, does it just feel like you built a wall and decided to call it a shield?
It's one of the most insidious traps we fall into within our closest relationships.
Right.
We constantly curate our realities for the people around
We
us.
really do.
We present this highly edited, polished version of ourselves because there's this terrifying underlying fear that the raw, unedited footage will just make the other person turn and run for the hills.
Yeah, that they won't stick around for the messy parts.
Exactly. We confuse withholding information with caretaking. And the fallout from that confusion can be absolutely devastating to a foundation of trust.
Which brings us to the beating heart of today's deep dive. We are stepping onto the ice today.
And way beyond the hockey rink.
Way beyond it. We are unpacking the contemporary sports romance novel If You Keep Me by Helena Hunting. We're entering the high-stakes, absolute pressure cooker world of the Toronto Terror, a professional hockey team.
It is quite the ecosystem.
It really is. We have a massive stack of sources to go through today. Character backgrounds, psychological profiles, chapter excerpts, team dynamics, and the incredibly complex web of players, coaches, and their partners. But I want to set expectations right away for you listening.
Right, because this is not your standard recap.
No, we aren't just here to recap a love story.
The mission of this deep dive goes much deeper than the basic plot mechanics of a romance novel. We are going to dissect the anatomy of modern sports romance. What's really fascinating here is how the author takes these classic, almost universally recognizable tropes. The coach's off-limits daughter, the reformed playboy with a notorious past, the forbidden age gap, and uses them as Trojan horses.
Trojan horses, I like that.
Yeah, because beneath the surface, this source material is tackling incredibly heavy, real-world issues. We're looking at the terrifying nature of emotional vulnerability, the toxic, relentless meat grinder of public media scrutiny, and the heavy, suffocating weight of generational trauma, specifically the trauma of watching a marriage slowly crumble.
I have my notes ready, and I'm so curious to see how all these pieces fit together. We're going to be talking about the WAGs, that's wives and girlfriends of the players, for anyone unfamiliar with the sports slang.
Right.
And just the absolute chaos of trying to fall in love when your entire life is under a microscope. So set the stage for me. Who are we following in this Toronto Terror ecosystem?
Let's start with our female protagonist, Tallulah van der Zee, who goes by Tally. She is 21 years old, a senior at Tilton University, and a deeply dedicated dance major.
Nice.
But the defining characteristic of her social existence is her lineage. She is the oldest daughter of Baron van der Zee,
And he's the head coach, right?
the formidable head coach at the Toronto Terror, yes.
That has to put an unbelievable target on her back. I mean, being a college student is stressful enough, but being the head coach's daughter in a hockey-obsessed city like Toronto,
Oh, absolutely.
she isn't just a regular student. She's basically local sports royalty. How does she handle that kind of attention?
She handles it with a great deal of frustration, to be honest. Tally is stuck in this infuriating paradox. She is the last virgin standing in her university friend group, and she is profoundly exhausted by the college boys around her.
Exhausted how?
Because they don't see her as Tally the dancer or Tally the person. They see her entirely as a fetish.
Wait, a fetish? Just because her dad is the coach?
Think about the locker room culture among these young, immature college athletes. To them, taking the virginity of the professional head coach's daughter is viewed as the ultimate trophy.
Oh, wow. That is incredibly gross.
It is. It's a massive ego trip for them. It's deeply dehumanizing for Tally because she is simultaneously deemed untouchable by the guys who are intimidated by her father and intensely objectified by the guys who just want bragging rights.
That sounds incredibly isolating. She's surrounded by people, but nobody is actually looking at her.
She expresses this frustration brilliantly during a brunch scene with her inner circle. She is sitting with a group of older, fiercely protective women affiliated with the team.
The badass babe brigade.
Yes, the badass Bay Brigade. And Tally laments that she just wants a meaningful connection. She doesn't want a lackluster, clumsy experience with a guy who is terrified of real intimacy.
Which is fair.
Exactly. She makes this very poignant, very funny complaint that she is sick of guys who need a map and written directions to find her hot button.
I mean, that is a completely valid complaint. It sounds like she isn't just craving a physical milestone.
No, she's not.
She is desperately craving emotional safety. She wants her first time to be a conscious choice she makes for herself, with someone who actually cares about her well-being as a human being, not just someone looking to score points with their buddies.
That craving for safety is the catalyst for everything that follows, and it leads her directly to the other half of our duo.
Philip Madden.
Flip Madden. Flip is in his late 20s, maybe early 30s, and he is a star forward for the Terror. Now, Flip comes with a very heavy reputation.
Uh-oh.
In the media and around the league, he is known as a notorious fuckboy. He has a long history of casual, meaningless hookups.
Okay, the classic bad boy trope.
But there is a massive caveat to that reputation in the present day. He has actually been entirely celibate for 2 full years.
Okay, stop right there.
I know.
A star professional athlete at the peak of his career, with a reputation as a playboy, just voluntarily deciding to be celibate for 2 years. That feels like a huge departure from the standard romance trope where the guy is out partying every night until the right woman tames him. Why the self-imposed exile?
We will get to the root of that trauma a bit later, but for now, understand that Flip is a man who has actively removed himself from physical intimacy.
Okay.
And he has known Tally for years through the team. His relationship with her is fascinating because he is fiercely, almost hyper-vigilantly protective of her. He constantly watches out for the men who approach her.
Because of the coach?
Not just that, he views her as completely off-limits. Functionally, her father is his boss, which is a massive deterrent, but mostly because he places her on this pedestal of purity and goodness.
He puts her on a pedestal.
Yes.
Yeah.
He feels, fundamentally, that he doesn't deserve to touch her.
So we have Tally, who is desperate for a safe, respectful experience, and Flip, who reveres her and would do anything to protect her.
Voilà.
I can see where this is going. Tally puts 2 and 2 together. She realizes that the one man she trusts more than anyone else in her life, the man who always ensures she is safe, is Flip.
Exactly.
So how does she bridge that gap?
She corners him in a hallway after a gathering.
Oh, wow.
She is exhausted by the immature college guys, and she drops an absolute bombshell on him. She propositions him.
Just flat out.
She flat out asks Flip to take her virginity.
Wow. That is an incredibly bold, almost desperate move. It's incredibly vulnerable, too.
It really is.
She's basically laying all her cards on the table and saying, I choose you because you are my safe harbor. I imagine, given his reputation and the fact that he's clearly attracted to her, he must be tempted. Does he wrestle with it? Does he give in to a secret taboo hookup?
He doesn't. His reaction completely flips the script of the expected narrative. He adamantly, firmly, and visibly painfully refuses her. He says no.
Why on earth would he say no? If he cares about her and he wants to protect her from these awful college guys, wouldn't he want to ensure she has a good experience?
To understand why he says no, we have to look at the psychological bedrock of his character. It is emphatically not a lack of attraction.
Right, because he's a guy.
And the source material gives us access to his internal monologue. He's desperately, fiercely attracted to her.
Okay, so what's the block?
The thought of being with her is a fantasy he has to actively, constantly fight against. He rejects her because his own self-worth is fundamentally shattered.
I'm trying to put myself in Tally's shoes here. She looks at Flip and sees this incredibly confident, experienced, successful, older man.
Right.
She thinks she's asking a trusted expert for a favor. How is she misreading this so badly?
She is completely misreading his emotional landscape because she can only see the armor he wears.
No, that makes sense.
Flip's past trauma has hardwired him to believe that his only value to a woman is his physical prowess and his bank account.
That's heartbreaking.
When Tally asks him for this favor, because she knows he is experienced and will be good at it, she unwittingly triggers his absolute deepest wound.
Oh, no.
She reinforces the toxic belief he holds about himself, that he is merely an instrument of pleasure, not a partner worthy of actual love.
Because she's just asking for the physical act.
Exactly. He tells her, your first time should be with someone who loves you and who you love back, and I can't be that guy.
Oh, that is such a tragic miscommunication.
It is.
It's like, Imagine you go to a master chef, someone who has trained for years and pours their entire soul into their culinary art,
Okay, I like this.
and you go up to them and ask them to quickly microwave you a frozen dinner because you know they are really good at pressing the buttons on the machine.
That is exactly what it feels like to hear.
You think you are complimenting their competence, but you are completely degrading the depth, the art, and the emotional weight they associate with the act. Tally thinks she's asking for a safe physical transaction.
Yes.
But Flip hears that he is still just a transactional object to the people he loves most.
That is a phenomenal analogy. He respects Tally far too much to reduce their dynamic to a transaction.
So he just shuts it down.
He tells himself that she deserves someone unbroken. He genuinely believes that giving in to her proposition would drag her down into his mess and ruin the pristine, beautiful friendship they share.
But Tally doesn't know any of that.
Right. Because Tally doesn't know about his trauma. His rejection absolutely crushes her. She tearfully asks him, "Anyone but me, right?"
Ouch.
Which cuts him to the absolute core.
I want you, the listener, to really sit with that dynamic for a moment. Think about a time in your own life when you looked at someone, maybe a colleague, a boss, or a partner, and you misjudged their competence as pure, unshakable confidence.
We do that a lot.
We look at them and think, they have it all together, completely missing the massive insecurities and anxieties hiding just beneath the surface. We see the armor and we assume the person wearing it is made of steel too.
Exactly.
Tally sees the armor of Flip's professional success and his past reputation and assumes he is emotionally untouchable, completely unaware of the agonizing self-doubt underneath.
And this interaction leaves both of them incredibly bruised. It forces a very awkward wedge between them, but it also irrevocably alters their dynamic.
Because it's out in the open now.
Yes, the door has been kicked open. Flip can no longer pretend he doesn't see Tally as a sexual being who actively desires him.
And she can't hide her attraction.
Right. But before they can even begin to navigate this new, highly charged romantic tension, the narrative throws a massive structural curveball that has absolutely nothing to do with romance.
Right, because just when you think this is going to be a straightforward will they, won't they dance, the entire foundation of Tally's world cracks wide open.
It falls apart.
Her parents, Coach Barron and Eline van der Zee, sit the family down and announce that they are getting a divorce.
After 25 years of marriage?
25 years, that is wild.
This is the true narrative turning point for Tally's character arc. It is a seismic shift in her understanding of the world. Her mother reveals that she has suffered in complete silence for decades.
In silence, why?
She accommodated the coach's grueling, demanding career. She played the role of the perfect, supportive co-parent, the perfect hockey wife.
But at what cost?
The cost of her own identity. She completely lost herself in the process. She explicitly tells Tally, "My inability to tell him what I needed and why is the reason our marriage failed."
Wow.
She says, "I made it easy for him to shirk his parental and fatherly duties by letting you be my co-parent."
That is an incredibly heavy burden to place on a 21-year-old.
Immense.
It shifts Tally from being a carefree college student who is just worried about her dance recitals and dating to suddenly realizing she has spent years acting as a surrogate mother to her younger siblings to cover for her father's absence.
Yes.
How does that revelation impact her psychologically?
The impact is profound and immediate. Tally's core fear is born in this exact moment.
What is it?
The absolute terror of losing herself, her voice, and her needs in a relationship with a high-profile, demanding man.
Which is exactly what Flip is.
Exactly. She looks at her parents' reigned 25-year marriage and thinks, is this what happens to love? It just fades into silent, unspoken resentment.
That would terrify anyone.
It creates a deep-seated anxiety about long-term commitment. If a marriage that looked perfect from the outside can dissolve because of unspoken needs and silent suffering, how could you possibly trust a new relationship?
She can't.
This fear heavily colors every single interaction she has with Flip moving forward.
Yeah.
She is desperate to avoid repeating her mother's mistakes.
So Tally is devastated. Her family is broken. Her understanding of love is shattered. She goes to a local bar favored by the team, a place called the Watering Hole.
Yeah.
And she proceeds to get incredibly dangerously drunk to numb the pain. And who steps in? Flip. He rescues her.
He does.
But how does this scene play out? Given his reputation, does the author use this to create tension?
Actually, the author uses this scene to actively dismantle the jock and bad boy stereotype Flip has been saddled with.
How so?
When we think of a reformed playboy trope, There is often still an edge of predatory behavior or boundary pushing, even when they are supposedly being the hero.
Right, taking advantage of the situation a bit.
Flip exhibits none of that.
Huh?
He takes her back to his luxury apartment, and he becomes the ultimate selfless caretaker.
He just takes care of her.
Yes. He holds your hair back while she is violently sick in his bathroom. He runs a warm washcloth over her face. He gets her water.
That's very sweet.
He puts her in one of his massive T-shirts. He treats her with a profound, tender reverence, putting her physical and emotional safety far above any sexual opportunity.
It's such a gentle, domestic scene. It completely strips away the glitz and glamour of the professional athlete lifestyle.
It really does.
And during this deeply vulnerable moment when Tally is stripped of all her usual poise and defense mechanisms, she admits the real truth behind her initial proposition.
Yes. She slurs out a confession that shifts the tectonic plates of Flip's heart.
What does she say?
She tells him she didn't just ask him to be her first because he's experienced. She says, "I asked because I like you, Flip. Not Flip Madden, the hockey player. You." She says, "The guy who slept on a yoga mat to make sure I was safe. The guy who attended my dance showcase and brought me my favorite flowers."
Oh, that changes everything for him, doesn't it? Because she isn't instrumentalizing him.
Not at all.
She isn't looking at him as a tool for a physical experience. She is looking at the core of who he is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He realizes she actually sees him. Not the athlete, not the statistics, not the reputation, but the man underneath.
And the narrative backs that up, doesn't it?
It takes its time to show us, the readers, evidence of this man through his off-ice persona. We learn that Flip doesn't just play hockey. He coaches a hockey league for kids with special needs.
Oh, that's amazing.
And crucially, he doesn't do it for good PR. In
Right.
fact, he explicitly forbids the team's PR department from taking photos or using it to boost his image,
He just does it because he cares.
purely because he cares. He also volunteers at a local retirement village, spending his free time playing cribbage with an elderly, incredibly sharp-tongued woman named Gertie.
I have to say, Gertie is exactly the kind of no-nonsense, truth-telling mentor figure you desperately need in a story like this. What role does she play in pushing Flip forward?
She provides the crucial push he needs to break out of his self-imposed exile. Flip is sitting across the cribbage board from her, agonizing over his feelings for Tally.
He's stuck in his own head.
Completely. He lists all the very logical, very real reasons why he shouldn't pursue her. The significant age gap, the wrath of her father, the coach, the media circus it would invite, and his own massive emotional baggage.
It's a long list.
He tells Gertie, she deserves better, and I have too much baggage.
And what does Gertie say?
Gertie, in her infinite blunt wisdom, reaches across the table and says, "Dear boy, we all come with baggage. What if she's your right person? Don't let her slip through your fingers because you're too afraid to try."
Oh, I love Gertie.
She's fantastic.
It's the ultimate wake-up call. He realizes that by constantly stepping back, by constantly trying to protect her from his own perceived unworthiness, he is actually denying both of them a chance at real happiness. He decides that the regret of never trying, of watching her move on with someone else, would be infinitely worse than the fallout of trying and failing.
He decides to step up.
But listener, I have to point out something here.
What's that?
Deciding you have feelings and deciding you want to date is the easy part. It's the prologue.
Oh, absolutely.
Actually executing that plan, actually dating the head coach's daughter as a star player in the era of viral social media and relentless paparazzi.
It's a nightmare.
That is where the story goes from a private romance to a public spectacle.
The transition from private realization to public relationship is fraught with immense peril. Flip does the honorable and, frankly, terrifying thing.
He talks to the coach.
He walks directly into Coach Vanderzee's office and asks for permission to date his daughter.
Oh, to be a fly on the wall in that room.
It is an incredibly tense, high-stakes scene. The coach is furious. He is fiercely protective of Tally, and he's highly skeptical of Flip's past reputation.
Of course he is.
But Flip stands his ground. He takes the yelling, he takes the threats to his career, proving he is entirely serious.
And does it work?
He eventually gets a very reluctant, highly conditional green light from the coach.
Okay, so the door is open. And with that green light, Tally officially enters the WAG ecosystem.
Yes, she does.
Now, we touched on this earlier, but WAG stands for Wives and Girlfriends. And in professional sports, this isn't just a label, it's an entire subculture.
It's a hierarchy.
Tally is absorbed into the inner circle of the badass babe brigade, We have Hemi, who is the formidable head of PR for the team, Dread, the incredibly insightful wife of the team's enforcer, and Rix, who is actually Flip's sister.
Right.
They form a literal and metaphorical shield around Tally when they go out to games or events.
I want to briefly pause on the character of Dread, because her role is significant.
Okay, let's unpack that for a second.
You mentioned she is the wife of the team's enforcer. For those unfamiliar with hockey dynamics, an enforcer is a player whose primary role is to deter and respond to violent play by the opposition.
They're the ones getting into fights on the ice.
Yes, they are the physical protectors on the ice. The psychological toll of being married to a man whose job is to put his body on the line and engage in violence is immense.
I can't even imagine.
Dread understands the hidden costs of the sport better than anyone. She understands the anxiety, the public scrutiny, and the need for a private sanctuary. She becomes a vital sounding board for Tally as she navigates this new reality.
That makes so much sense. Tally has this amazing support system, but as they quickly learn, you cannot control the narrative when you are living in the public eye.
You really can't.
Which brings us to one of the most stressful, visceral, genuinely anxiety-inducing scenes in the entire source material.
The tampon toss.
The PR nightmare that the internet dubs the tampon toss. Walk me through this because my heart rate spiked just reading the notes.
This sequence perfectly encapsulates the toxic, relentless nature of media scrutiny in sports and celebrity culture.
Set the scene for us.
Flip takes Tally out for a beautiful, highly romantic dinner at an upscale, very visible Toronto restaurant. It's meant to be a moment of connection, a celebration of their new relationship.
Okay.
But while they're there, Tally unexpectedly gets her period. She's wearing a delicate, expensive white dress, and she bleeds through it.
Oh, no.
She retreats to the bathroom and finds herself trapped in a single-stall restroom, absolutely mortified, panicked, and feeling completely helpless.
It is a literal nightmare scenario for anyone. I think every woman listening can feel a phantom spike of panic just hearing that setup.
It's awful.
And it's exponentially worse because she knows there are paparazzi waiting outside the restaurant to snap photos of them leaving.
Right, she can't just sneak out.
She is trapped. How does Flip handle it when he realizes something is wrong?
Flip realizes she's been gone too long, goes to check on her, and she explains the situation through the bathroom door.
Does he freak out?
He immediately assesses the situation, and his reaction is nothing short of phenomenal. He doesn't panic. He doesn't make her feel gross or embarrassed or like an inconvenience.
Thank goodness.
He quite literally gives her the shirt off his back. He takes off his custom, expensive dress shirt, hands it to her to tie around her waist to cover the bloodstain, and he walks her out of the restaurant wearing nothing but his suit jacket over his bare chest.
But wait, let me play devil's advocate here. Isn't walking out of a highly publicized restaurant, shirtless, with the coach's daughter, incredibly reckless?
Extremely reckless.
Especially for a guy who is already on thin ice with said coach. Why didn't he just call Hemi, the PR person, to bring a coat? Or ask a waiter for a tablecloth? Why go for the most visually scandalous option?
It's a great question, and it speaks to Flip's core prioritization. Calling someone would take time. Asking a waiter would involve bringing a stranger into Tally's deeply vulnerable, embarrassing moment.
So he just acts.
Flip's immediate overriding instinct is the absolute protection of Tally's dignity in that specific second. He knows exactly what the optics will be.
That people will talk.
He knows that walking out into a sea of flashing cameras, shirtless, with his girlfriend, will immediately ignite a firestorm of scandalous rumors.
But he does it anyway.
He willingly, consciously throws himself to the wolves of public opinion to save Tally from a deeply personal kind of public humiliation.
Wow.
He chooses to take the hit to his own reputation and risk the wrath of her father rather than let her endure the indignity of a blood-stained dress being splashed across the tabloids. He prioritizes her emotional safety over his professional standing.
And the media, predictably, does exactly what the media does. They immediately leap to the most scandalous, salacious conclusion possible. The photos go insanely viral. The narrative instantly becomes, Flip Madden, the supposedly reformed bad boy, is back to his old tricks, disrespecting the team by hooking up with the coach's young daughter in a public restroom.
It is a PR disaster of epic proportions. The coach is furious, screaming in his office, threatening to trade Flip to another city.
And Tally.
Tally is humiliated, not by her period, but by the horrific misogynistic things people are saying about her online.
This incident forces us to examine our own societal tendencies and the media we consume. The media is incredibly quick to sexualize young women and vilify athletes.
They don't pause to look for a logical, compassionate, or mundane explanation.
No, they look for clicks. They look for outrage. It is a terrifying mirror held up to how quick society is to consume and judge the curated out-of-context snippets of other people's lives.
Absolutely.
Enter Hemi, the absolute queen of crisis management. She calls an emergency meeting with Flip, the team captain Dallas, and the core group.
And the strategy they come up with to combat this rumor mill is brilliant.
How do they flip the script?
They decide to weaponize the truth. Dallas, the captain, points out the sheer absurdity of the situation.
What does he say?
He notes that society is so deeply uncomfortable with the reality of a woman's menstrual cycle that the public would rather believe a couple had frantic, inappropriate sex in a public restaurant restroom than simply admit a woman got her period unexpectedly.
It's wild when you say it out loud, but it's entirely true. The taboo around menstruation is so strong that the scandalous lie is actually more palatable to the public than the biological truth.
Precisely. So Hemi executes a masterful PR pivot. They decide to own the narrative by forcing the media to confront their own misogyny and discomfort with female biology.
I love Hemi.
Hemi sets up an exclusive sit-down interview with a trusted fair journalist named Marietta from the local Tribune. They're going to tell the exact truth of what happened in that bathroom.
I love this interview scene so much. Marietta is a great journalist. She's asking hard questions, pushing Flip on why he would risk his reputation, his career, and his relationship with his head coach just by walking out shirtless.
She doesn't hold back.
She asks him, point blank, "You gave your girlfriend the literal shirt off your back." And Flip, in his fierce defensive desire to explain his actions and protect Tally's honor, slips up.
He does.
He says, "Of course I did." He catches himself before he finishes the word love, but the intention is entirely out there.
Marietta is sharp.
Yes, Marietta, sensing the weight of the moment, pauses the recorder. She asks him, off the record, does she know?
And Flip admits he hasn't told Tally he loves her yet. But he states unequivocally, back on the record, "She's my girlfriend. She's the most important person in my world. I would do whatever it takes to protect her."
That moment is a beautiful synthesis of his character growth.
It really is. Even when trying to manage a massive PR crisis, even when his career is on the line, his core motivation remains absolute protection of the woman he loves. He is willing to bare his soul to a reporter to ensure Tally's dignity remains intact.
It really makes you think about how we navigate public perception versus private reality in our own lives. Even if you don't have paparazzi following your every move, you have an audience.
You have Instagram, you have family expectations, you have the judgment of your peer group.
Exactly. Listener, think about a time you let people believe a false narrative about you because the truth was too complicated, too messy, or too deeply personal to explain at a dinner party.
We all do it.
Flip and Tally are forced to navigate that exact tension, but on a massive citywide scale.
And just when you think they have weathered the storm, just when they have united against the external pressure of the media and the fans, the threat shifts entirely from external to internal.
Here we go.
We move into the darkest part of the narrative, the sins of omission. Because while the internet is digging into Flip's past during the tampon toss fallout, a massive, devastating secret is unearthed and splashed across every sports blog in the country.
Oh boy. The other shoe finally drops. Flip Madden was married.
He was secretly married, back in college, to his high school sweetheart, a woman named Fiona.
This is the missing puzzle piece to Flip's entire psychological profile. We finally learn the origin of this trauma.
Flip and Fiona eloped in college because they wanted to stay together, despite strict university housing restrictions. Flip genuinely thought he was building a life with the woman he loved.
But things went wrong.
A few months into the marriage, just as the NHL scouts were heavily pursuing him and the pressure was mounting, he came home to their apartment to find her bags packed.
And it isn't just that she leaves him, it's how she leaves him. What she says to him as she walks out the door is the trauma that has defined his entire adult life.
She tells him she doesn't want the pressure of being a hockey wife. She doesn't want the scrutiny.
But then she twists the knife. She tells him he is only good for two things: his money and his sexual prowess.
It is absolute emotional devastation.
She reduces his entire existence, his heart, his soul, his ambition, entirely to a bank account and an instrument of physical pleasure.
If we look at the psychological concept of instrumentalization in relationships, this is a textbook traumatic example.
Instrumentalization.
Yes, treating someone as an instrument or tool. High net worth individuals, particularly young athletes, are uniquely vulnerable to this. They're constantly surrounded by people who want something from them: access, money, status.
That makes a lot of sense.
When the person you trust most in the world confirms your worst fear, that you are merely a tool for their benefit, it shatters your ability to trust anyone else's intentions.
And that's why he acted the way he did in his 20s.
This is exactly why Flip spent his 20s engaging in meaningless, pleasure-focused encounters. If he believed he was only good for sex, he decided to lean into that, actively avoiding any emotional connection.
Because the one time he gave his heart, it was thrown back in his face with a deeply cruel assessment of his worth.
Precisely.
And this brings it all full circle. This is why he was voluntarily celibate for 2 years prior to the book's start.
He was exhausting himself trying to break that toxic cycle.
This is why he initially rejected Tally's proposition in the hallway. She unknowingly echoed Fiona's transactional view of him by asking for his physical expertise while bypassing his emotional self.
Exactly. But the tragedy here isn't just his past, it's how the present unfolds.
How Tally finds out.
Tally doesn't find out about Fiona in a quiet, intimate, trusting conversation with the man she loves. She finds out at the exact same time as the rest of the world, scrolling through social media on her phone.
That is brutal.
She finds out at the same time as her friends. Even Flip's own sister, Rex, who is part of Tally's inner circle, never knew he was married. Tally is deeply, profoundly betrayed.
But wait, let's clarify this because it's important. Is Tally angry that he has an ex-wife? Is she jealous of a college relationship from a decade ago?
No, and we have to be very clear about the nature of her betrayal. Tally is a mature, understanding woman. She is not angry that he was married.
Okay, good.
She is devastated by the secrecy. This brings us right back to our opening hook about building walls and calling them shields. Break down the psychology of protecting a partner.
Flip claims he kept the secret because Tally was already under so much stress.
Yes. Her parents' sudden divorce, her grueling dance finals, the intense media scrutiny from the restaurant incident. He tells himself, and he tries to tell her, that he is shielding her from unnecessary drama.
But Tally is too smart for that.
Way too smart.
She brilliantly, piercingly calls him out on it during this massive emotional confrontation in his apartment.
It's a powerful scene.
She looks at him and says, "Are you sure you were protecting me and not yourself?"
Oh, that is the core question of the book.
She points out the undeniable truth. He was terrified that if she knew how broken he was, if she knew someone else had discarded him, she would leave him too.
He was using protection as a highly convenient excuse to avoid the terrifying vulnerability of sharing his deepest wound.
It is a masterful thematic parallel drawn by the author. Tally looks at Flip and sees the exact toxic dynamic that destroyed her parents' marriage playing out in her own relationship.
The silent suffering.
Her mother hid her pain and her needs for 25 years to protect the coach's career and keep the peace, and it resulted in a sudden, catastrophic divorce that ripped their family apart.
Tally refuses to walk down that same path.
She tells Flip, "You show up every time, but you do the same thing with me that my mom did with my dad. You can't ask me to share myself and not do the same. There's no balance in that."
There's no balance in that.
That line gives me chills. She is demanding emotional parity. She is saying, "I want to be your safe space just as much as you want to be mine."
She realizes that a relationship where one person is the unbreakable, stoic rock who handles everything and never shows weakness is inherently unbalanced.
Inherently lonely and ultimately doomed to fail. You
Yeah.
cannot truly connect with a brick wall, no matter how beautifully constructed or protective that wall is.
This raises an incredibly important question about modern relationships outside of the fiction we're discussing. The traditional patriarchal model often demands that the man be the stoic provider.
The emotional fortress.
The emotional fortress, who shields his family from his own internal struggles. But this narrative argues fiercely against that model. It suggests that absolute mutual vulnerability is the only sustainable path forward.
Yes, because if you hide your flaws, your past, and your trauma, you are actively denying your partner the opportunity to love the real you.
You are making them fall in love with a carefully curated avatar. And an avatar cannot sustain a real marriage.
Yes, and Tally refuses to fall in love with an avatar. She wants the messy, complicated, scarred Philip, But think about where she is at this moment.
She's under so much pressure.
The revelation of the secret marriage, the media circus surrounding it, the profound betrayal of trust, the looming pressure of her dance finals, the ongoing fallout of her parents' divorce. It's a critical mass of stress.
The pressure cooker is whistling.
And it's about to explode. Tally realizes she is drowning. This leads us into the climax of the story. How does she handle this overwhelming breaking point?
Overwhelmed by this perfect storm of chaos, Tally makes an incredibly mature, highly difficult decision. She asks Flip for a pause on the relationship.
A pause, not a breakup.
A pause. She explicitly tells him she needs space to breathe, to study for her exams, to perform in her critical dance showcase, and to process everything she has learned about his past and about her own boundaries.
But how does a couple actually execute a pause without it feeling exactly like a breakup? Do they just stop talking entirely? Do they block each other's numbers? That sounds agonizing.
It is agonizing, but it's where Flip proves his immense character growth.
How does he react?
The old Flip, the man entirely driven by his deep-seated fear of abandonment, might have panicked. He might have begged, shown up at her dorm, or pushed her boundaries in a desperate attempt to fix things immediately.
That he doesn't do that.
The Flip, who truly loves Tally, agrees to the pause without a fight. He hates the distance. The text makes it clear it physically aches him to be away from her, but he respects her boundaries completely.
He gives her the space she requested. I have to say, the details of how they handle this pause are so realistic and moving. The author includes these sweet, desperate text messages between them that establish the ground rules.
They are great texts.
Flip texts her, "It's okay if you need to hit pause on us, I understand." And Tally immediately replies, "I don't want to lose you, though."
And they establish the parameters right there on the screen.
Just a pause, not a breakup. Just a pause. It's a raw portrayal of two people who love each other deeply, but simply cannot function in the same physical or emotional space at that specific moment in time.
It's communication at its absolute finest. I would argue that this pause is the healthiest decision made in the entire narrative.
Why is that?
It demonstrates a profound evolution in their dynamic. It shows that true love isn't about desperate, suffocating clinging when things get hard. It is about respecting your partner's capacity and autonomy.
Tally recognizes she simply doesn't have the emotional bandwidth to process his massive trauma while managing the implosion of her own life.
And Flip recognizes that forcing the issue to soothe his own anxiety would only drive her further away. During this pause, Flip seeks advice from his best friend, Tristan.
Tristan, another great supporting character.
And Tristan gives him the key to unlocking the final barrier between them. He tells Flip that he needs to put all his fears, his hopes, and his absolute truth down on paper.
Writing it out.
If you can't say the words out loud without letting fear dictate the narrative, he needs to write them down.
Which sets the stage for the beautiful resolution. Tally has her dance showcase. She performs brilliantly, channeling all her emotion into her art.
And Flip is there.
Flip is there in the audience, watching her shine, giving her space, but showing his support. And afterward, when the dust has settled and she finally says the magic word to him,
Unpause.
unpause, he doesn't just sweep her into his arms for a movie moment kiss. He presents her with a gift. He hands her a leather journal.
The journal is the ultimate romantic gesture for this specific couple.
Because it's everything he was hiding.
Exactly. It represents the exact precise thing Flip was withholding, his inner voice. It is filled with his messy thoughts, collages of photos, and most importantly, letters.
Letters that start with agonizing honesty. Tally, we're on pause. Even writing those words terrifies me.
He gives her the unedited, raw footage of his soul. He takes off the final, heaviest piece of armor and places it directly in her hands.
It's so incredibly moving, and it's only after this act of supreme emotional vulnerability, after all the secrets are laid bare and the trust is fundamentally rebuilt on a foundation of absolute transparent honesty, that they finally consummate their relationship.
It isn't a transactional favor like her original proposition in the hallway.
It isn't a rushed, scandalous hookup in a public restroom to spite the media.
It is an intimate, sacred merging of two people who finally completely see and understand each other's scars. The consummation is the physical manifestation of their new emotional parity.
Flip is no longer performing to prove his worth. He is connecting.
Tally is no longer seeking a safe harbor to hide in. She is actively acting as one for him. The power dynamic is entirely leveled.
And the story concludes beautifully with an epilogue where, surrounded by their chosen family, the wags, the teammates, and the chaotic joy of their friends' children, Flip proposes to Tally after a grueling playoff game.
They have weathered the storm, not by shielding each other from the rain with secrets, but by standing in the downpour together.
So what does this all mean for us? Let's bring it back home for you, the listener. We've gone on quite a journey today. We started with what looked like a somewhat cliched take my virginity proposition, a trope we've seen a million times in pop culture.
But we ended up deep in the weeds of a profound, highly psychological exploration of what it actually means to truly partner with another human being.
We've learned that you cannot be someone's safe space if you are hiding behind a wall of your own making. True intimacy requires taking off the armor.
It requires trusting your partner not just with your triumphs, your wealth, or your successes, but with your deepest, most jagged scars.
Flip had to learn the agonizing lesson that his trauma didn't make him unlovable. Hiding it did.
Tally had to learn that she couldn't outrun the ghost of her parents' failed marriage by demanding a stress-free perfection from her partner.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final, provocative thought to mull over. Something to chew on during your commute or while you're folding laundry.
We live in a world where we curate absolutely everything.
We curate our Instagram grids to show only the best vacations, our TikTok feeds to show only the funniest moments, our resumes to hide the gaps, and yes, the stories we tell our partners about our past. We polish the rough edges until they shine.
We do it constantly, almost subconsciously. We present the best of real to everyone we meet.
But what is the actual cost of that lack of transparency? We just spent an hour watching Flip almost lose the love of his entire life by trying to curate a stress-free, perfect reality for her.
He almost destroyed his future by trying to edit his past.
So ask yourself today, right now, are you hiding a messy, complicated, painful part of yourself to protect someone else? Or are you just deeply afraid they won't love the unedited, raw version of your story?
It is a terrifying risk to be fully known. It goes against all our self-preservation instincts. But as this narrative so beautifully and painfully illustrates, taking that risk is the only way to be fully loved.
Well said. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the source material. Keep learning, keep questioning the polished narratives you see around you, and above all, keep looking beneath the surface. We'll catch you next time.